Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark. I'm so excited to see you here today and joining us for this special occasion of the National Day of Prayer. Now, you guys know who I am. I'm Dr. Angela Butchester, and you know what I like to do on my show. Say it with me. I want to enlighten, inspire, and empower you to become your best self. Now, scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on a fire. And that's what we want to do today. We want to get you fired up. So go on, get comfy, get cozy, get your coffee or get your tea because we are about to get started. I want to welcome to the panel today. I have Janet M. Taylor and Ken Holt. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. It's good
Thank
to
you.
be
And it's great to be here, Dr. Angela.
Absolutely. Now, before we get started, and we will be talking about family and church today, I realize that we may have some folks out there that are unfamiliar with who you are and what you do. So let's get the introductions out of the way, if you will. Janet, tell us a little bit about yourself. What makes you you?
I am a life organizer and a podcaster.
I love it. Ken, what about you?
I am a musician, and I am a Presbyterian minister, and a dog owner. So I stay busy.
I love it. I love it. Born and raised Presbyterian. So, de colores to all of those who have been to pilgrimage. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for joining me today. Now, as you know, the National Day of Prayer is something that has one day in particular that is really special, but events are held throughout the year. As we are doing today, we are making sure that the entire month is a month of prayer. With that being said, Janet, I'm going to start with you. Now, family. Everyone is either creating their family, a member of a family, or love some folks in another family. So, this is such an appropriate topic. When it comes to praying for our family and our family groups, what is one thing that you think help keeps that system strong, intact, or moving forward?
Well, I believe definitely staying connected, I should say, staying connected. And also, I believe just embracing technology in order to do that. I use Zoom, I use texting. Of course, there are times when I pick up the phone, but then sometimes it's important for us just to see people in person. But I definitely think that it is staying connected. And I feel sometimes that we feel like we've got so much stuff going on and we just can't do it. But you know what? Sometimes it's scheduling. I'm a time management person. So I'm going to say schedule. I schedule time weekly to connect with friends. We're all in different time zones. I schedule time weekly to, reach out to my BFF. And I also make sure I stay connected with not only the generation, after me, like my godchildren, constantly staying connected with them, but also staying connected with the people who are a generation ahead of me. And I do that in various ways. Sometimes I may text a scripture, sometimes I may leave a voice prayer, or sometimes I'll just text and say, "Can I talk to you for a second?" And they'll say, "Yeah." And I'll just do a quick prayer. It doesn't have to be anything long. And sometimes it does, but it depends on schedules and things. So, really, that is the way for families to do it. And also, not only just staying connected, but also making sure you stay connected in person too, touching people, praying for people as well.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And I think that when we were dealing with with the global pandemic, we found out how important it was to really stay in contact with people and to make that extra effort. And especially for the generation that is ahead of us, for like our boomers boomers, the silent generation, if we have those that are, still with us, then we need to treat them like the precious people that they are because we don't know how much longer we're going to have with them. So treat them well. And I couldn't agree with you more. The generation that is behind us, absolutely. They probably prefer that we text them and not call anyway. So I think that you're definitely on to something there.
Yeah, and I think, and also I just wanted to just mention because the generation ahead of me, my mentor's 80 years old, and we would connect at least every couple of weeks. But now we feel it is necessary for us even just to connect weekly via the phone. Every couple of weeks we do it via Zoom. She's 80 years young, but now we do it every Friday.
Yeah.
I mean, how many other people at the same moment in time are also trying to connect with people, in my family. So you go out to dinner and everybody's got their phone, everybody's looking at their phone, if you're not, it's so everybody's working at being connected. So we have the technology, and as Janet said, we certainly need to use the technology. But the technology can also shoot us in the foot because everybody's using it, and uh, and so I have to work even harder, to get a piece of someone's life. Give me a couple of lines. Can I have a couple of lines of text, or maybe a 30-second phone call? Okay, here I am. Don't forget about me. So yeah, it's difficult.
I cannot agree with you more. And I remind some of my teacher friends as well that, we can't teach the next generation the same way that we were taught because, in comparison, that's boring. That's like 2D. We have to make it exciting. We have to do something that's going to catch their attention. And once we have their attention, we can teach them how to interact with us better, the same way that they can teach us how to interact with them better. But we have to do something that is, hey, give me some time. Don't allow, the distractions of the world to take or separate us from our friend groups and our family members. You are so right there, Ken. I love that. Now, when it comes to speaking of our youth, praying for the children, for the young adults that are in our lives, we should cover them or put a hedge of protection around them the same way that we do our spouses or our significant others, right? What are some ways that we can help our youth grow in their faith, be it that we're teaching them how to pray for themselves, we're including them in our prayer groups, but what are some ways that we can help teach our youth as well?
Well, I would definitely say lead by example. So I think, and it depends on each person and each child. But I know for me, one time when my goddaughter was just going through some challenges and I knew about it. So I just reached out to her with a quick little text of encouragement, and that really helped her. So, a lot of times it is using the best form for the best person. Some people, I would just pick the phone up, but I knew for her, and I knew specifically the time. It's like, so some reason she just answers all her texts sometimes late at night, and that's okay. But it was just sending that. And she said, I really appreciate that, Aunt Janet. And also, I just wanted to quickly piggyback. In leading by example, one of the things I love about my godchildren is they do not bring any devices to the dinner table. If we're at a dinner table, even if we're out, no, we have to talk to each other. So that's important as well. But yeah, definitely, making sure you reach out to them as soon as possible. And sometimes just letting them know, I know what it's like. I know what it's like when you're fresh out of college and you're challenged with trying to find a job. I know.
Yeah, we really do have to make sure that we are utilizing the proper platform for everyone that's in our lives and creating that space for them to also use that platform to connect with us, be it that it's text or it's a phone call or it's writing a letter or it's coming by for a visit. Now, I happen to be one of those folks that's like, please call or text before you stop by. Don't just pop up, because I want to make sure that I can give you my best, right? Because if I'm tired and you just stop by, I'm not going to be able to give you my full attention. So if you can afford me that courtesy, unless it's an emergency, that's really and truly different. But if you can afford me that courtesy, I will give you all the time in the world. So you're so right there. I love that little reminder. And don't be afraid to show up with something in your hand. If that's the way to interact with that, grandmother might enjoy you bringing her, some coffee or flowers or, her favorite little candies or whatever. Like, show that you're really loving on that person when you connect with them. I love that.
Yeah, those are nice touches that you just recommended. Flowers and what'd you say, candy or just something that some tangible demonstration that I'm really glad to see you. And I actually made an extra effort to say hi. So yeah, that's important. And leading by example, as Janet was saying, when you're at the dinner table, I mean, I don't want to be taking calls myself, and if I'm going to preach it, I have to practice it, got to put the phone away and yeah, practice what you preach.
Absolutely. And I think that is so incredibly important. In fact, it's really interesting that you say that because my family has learned that if it is my Sunday to present the sermon, on Saturday, I'm out of commission because Saturday I am doing any last minute touches. I am going over. I'm also making sure that my robe is not in the cleaners. All of those things that really help you prepare for your Sunday sermon. And that time, I almost consider it pre-sacred time, like the same way that I think that we in our own ways have our understanding of our personal rituals or preparations that we take in order to do certain things. At my church, we give out when it is Communion Sunday, or some people say when it's time to take the Eucharist. We have little baggies, the tiny little baggies that have hand wipes in them that we started during COVID, like when we were able to go back to church after COVID. And we continue to do that because so many people appreciated the fact that when we're singing that song to prepare for that important moment, you can cleanse your hand. So when it is time for you to, participate in communion, that you feel that you are presenting your best self. So you are so right. Those little things that we can do make a huge difference. Now, my last question when it comes to family is that we realize that there are some single parents out there. So many times we focus just on single moms, but unfortunately, we have some single dads too. Moms pass away as well, or moms are incapacitated as well. So, with that being said, is there anything that you feel that we could do as a populace that can help cover our single parents when it comes to prayer?
I believe with that, it's always good when another single parent really kind of just covers them in prayer because they really know what they're actually going through. It's more or less like when I find out somebody's a caregiver because I was a caregiver. So I really know how to cover them in prayer. So, just knowing, possibly what their needs are, making sure you put that, in their prayer and just sometimes just letting them know, whether it's a call, a text, or sometimes, like you were saying, Dr. Angela, sometimes it could be just leaving a little package by the front door, depending on where they live, and saying, hey, I was just thinking about you, and here's something that could maybe make your day or make life a little bit easier. So I believe that we definitely should, keep them in prayer as well, because, they're running things by themselves. So they need that extra bit of support. And just knowing sometimes somebody's on the other end just praying gives them that comfort and peace that they need.
Yeah, that is such a good idea. I know when I'm in counselor mode, I share tools and resources that I have. So as I meet and greet with people and collab with folks for other reasons, if they help community in any way, it's like give me your card. I never know when I'm gonna need that information, and I try to actually keep like a binder of business cards from people around the country because I'm always traveling. So you never know where a client is going to come from as well. So you may be the difference that they have been looking for that connects them to that resource or that tool that really helps them bring that balance and that harmony back to their life or to their family. That's a great idea.
You were talking about started talking about a single single parents, whether it's a man or whether it's a woman. I think it's important, whether it's whatever the situation might be, to to really to make our prayers real. I mean, to make our no one knows what the needs of a single mom or a single dad are better than another single mom or another single dad. I mean, I can try to just surmise that and try to make some educational guesses or observational guesses, but find somebody who's really walking in those shoes, and I think if we can connect those people, those folks in those like situations together, and then I think maybe they would even be more successful than me, if that's the right word, than keeping the prayers real, and just I'm praying about something that I know is really impacting your life, which is really a challenge for you. I mean, I try to do that. I mean, you would try to do that. We all try to do that, but
Absolutely. And I find that there are so many churches too that are trying to step in and have that as a group, like a cell group or a fellowship group as well, especially if they find that there is a particular portion of their congregation that's dealing with that. The same way that we have women's ministry and men's council and youth group. If you have a need for a single parent group, and it shouldn't matter if they're male or female, they're still kind of going through the same foundational things without getting all into the weeds there. Why not have a group for them? And sometimes just having the conversation and knowing that you are not alone in a situation, that someone else is experiencing that too, sometimes just gives you that breath, that room to say it's not personal. It is simply an experience. So thank you guys so much for having this conversation about family. And I hope that we have inspired someone, that we have empowered someone today, that we've enlightened them just a little when it comes to ways in which we can intercede for our families. Well, it is time for us to take a small break, but don't worry, when we get back, we will continue this conversation for the National Day of Prayer. We'll be back right after this. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark. We are celebrating the National Day of Prayer. And because I had so many wonderful people that wanted to participate, it is not just one day here on Daily Spark. We are celebrating all month long. So we are going to jump back into this conversation. This time, we'll be talking about church. Now, Janet and Ken, church is so important to, I believe, most of our audience. We have a faith-centered audience that we speak to, and we're not gonna, get on whether someone's going to church every Sunday or every Wednesday or whatever day is most important for you at your denomination, but we're talking about the church as a whole. So, with that being said, we used to find that church was a beacon of hope, a beacon of light in the community, but it seems like that is starting to shift, to change just a little bit. are there any particular things that come to mind that can help us to encourage folks to continue to go to their churches, to continue to be a part of the faith community?
If there's a need for the church, I think that certainly this time and this time that we're experiencing now in America, we'll boil it down to America. I think the church has a grand opportunity to provide support and to bring and hopefully to try to bring people together. I think people certainly. I think most of us could agree that that America's pretty divided right now, and so the church has an opportunity to offer some support and to say, you're not in this alone. You're not the only one who's experiencing this joy or this grief, depending on what you're experiencing. And here is a group of like-minded or like-hearted people who want to share your life and be there for you, if you have that need. Um, Retired minister, and I just recently started going to another church, and I went there, and I'm going to this new church because it does offer for me that kind of community and that kind of support, and people need that now.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, we unfortunately hear about the horror stories of church folks that have done something to someone that is going to turn them off and rub them the wrong way. But there's also the flip side of the coin, and there are so many wonderful people that can be found in the various churches around our great nation. So, church family can fill that space many times or be that bridge between our community, our blood relatives, and our various work groups. So church family is so important.
And that is so true because as Ken was talking, I was thinking about all the times in my life where the church family just kind of surrounded me because, most of my family is either Midwest, West Coast. So I'm like the only one really on the East Coast. And when my mother passed, they were there. When I had to have major surgery, it was like for weeks, I didn't even have to cook. Ken, that was wonderful. Every time I went in my freezer, there was something in there. And even during the pandemic, when I was feeling like alone because I'm single and I live alone, don't have a pet, is just being able to just reach out to people. And so, you're right. It's like a community of people who are like-minded, like-hearted, and they just are really there for you. You can have a laugh with them, but also when you are going through something, they're right there. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. One of the things that I talk about is our support teams. And for a long time, I think the word support had a negative connotation, right? People thought, like, I don't need support. I don't need anyone helping me. I don't need charity. And it's like, no, not that type of support. We're talking about those folks that love you for whatever reason, that they love you, or at minimum, they luve. They love ya or they love you. They are still a part of our support teams. And so many times we find that even the folks that love us may not be available, and someone that loves you can step in and really be that person that you need, and vice versa. So, having those people are so important. You are so right. Now, when it comes to the various people groups that we're talking about, and since we're talking about church, I have a tendency to encourage people to pray for their pastors, not because I'm part of the ministry team, but because it is important to make sure that those that are pouring into us have time to rest, recharge, rejuvenate, and also that they too hear from the Lord. With that being said, what do you believe are some things that we can do to help keep our pastors, our leaders, and perhaps those that work in community but work closely with clergy? How can we keep them covered in prayer?
We can work at establishing a trusting friendship kind of relationship. Because pastors are not going to share everything they're thinking and feeling with everyone in the congregation, clearly. And so everyone needs someone to talk to, someone they can trust, who's going to be a confidential friend. This is between me and you, but I have to get this off my mind and off my heart. And sometimes just having someone that you can share that with, I mean, that's gonna make you feel better, help you to feel better as a pastor person. And so if there if you're in the congregation and you think you might be able to have a special kinship with a pastor, you might reach out and offer to go out for coffee, or go out for lunch, and just kind of build that kind of casual trusting. Yes, that trust is a big word. Trusting relationship.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And also, I think sometimes it's in the past, it's been, well, that's the pastor, so I can't really approach them. But it's really great to have a wonderful relationship and be able to communicate with your pastor. I've been able to communicate with all the pastors that I have been under, whether it's just having a nice conversation. I've gone out to coffee to some of them. I mean, currently, the person that I do um, communicate with either twice a month or at least weekly is a pastor. And it's just nice to sometimes just have a nice little friendly conversation, but also have a relationship where if you do have a question about something, because maybe you're thinking is, what's really going on, you can actually go to them and they can give you their at least guidance and leadership as a pastor. But then again, it's always good sometimes just to have a good laugh with a pastor. Because I still remember I was having a meeting with my pastor and I was like, "You got an orange jumpsuit in your office. What is it?" And he said, I went and I was doing prison ministry and it just gave it to me, Jen. I was like, okay. Just wanted to ask because, that's like the elephant in the room. I'm like, I know you're trying to talk to me, but I'm looking over here. So you can have a good laugh with your pastor as well.
Oh, how cute that is, when you said that, and I said, oh, it's kind of the same way when we think about those that are in sport, that you give that person that you love an honorary jersey, right?
Mhm.
And even though no one wants to be an honorary prisoner, I love that, that they loved him enough that they trust in him and look forward to seeing him enough that they wanted to give him a token of appreciation. I love that. But before I let you go, each of you does something that is different, and someone may be saying, hey, I liked what they had to say. I want to connect with them outside of just today. What is the best way to reach out to you?
Well, you can reach
You've
out
heard,
to me at my website at janetmtaylor.com, or you can follow me on social media at Janet the Organizer.
and you can get in touch with me at kenholtmusic.com.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you both for joining me for the National Day of Prayer.